From the nation's capital, this is The View from Washington with Congressman Buck McKeon.
Hi, I'm Congressman Buck McKeon from the 25th District of California. Welcome back to The View from Washington. If you're new to the program, let me take a moment to explain. The View from Washington is a new monthly 30-minute show I began to provide you an insider's perspective on issues facing Congress this year. In recent months, we've been tackling a critical mortgage and foreclosure situation, energy reform, and national security. We've also witnessed a slowing economy and have been working to ease the stress of everyday financial burdens for families. Congress is off to a busy start for the year, and so is the U.S. House Education and Labor Committee, where I'm the senior Republican member. Last year in the committee, we passed the much-anticipated Higher Education Reauthorization Bill, known as the College Opportunity and Affordability Act. Then in early February, the bill passed through the House and it's set for a conference with the Senate. This is a very important bill that addresses the rising cost of college and removes other obstacles that make it harder for qualified students to go to college. With me here to discuss the higher education reauthorization and other issues specific to helping students get to college is a fellow committee member, Congressman Randy Kuhl from the 29th District of New York. Congressman Kuhl was the first sworn into the U.S. House of Representatives in 2005 and sits on the subcommittee on higher education, lifelong learning, and competitiveness in our committee. Congressman Kuhl has a history as an active leader in education. His district in New York has 14 colleges and universities, the highest per capita concentration of any congressional district. Prior to serving in Congress, he served in the New York State Senate for 14 years and was chairman of the Senate Standing Committee on Education from 1999 to 2003 before coming to Congress. Congressman Kuhl, Randy, thank you for joining us here today.
Buck, it's nice to be with you.
You know, as I talked, we've started on the higher education reauthorization. We've gotten it through committee, through the House. Actually, in the last Congress, we got it passed and sent it on to the Senate, where it, as many bills, kind of just died.
Sometimes that's good, though.
Sometimes that
Not
is
in this
good.
case.
You know, last year the president had a few of us in talking about the reauthorization of the No Child Left Behind Act. In fact, it was on January 8th. It was the anniversary, the 5th anniversary of No Child Left Behind, and he had Senator Kennedy and Enzi and Chairman Miller and Secretary Spellings and myself. We were sitting in the Oval Office talking about the reauthorization. And when we finished the meeting and left the Oval Office, there were about 20 or 30 senators waiting to go in and talk to the president. This is, you know, a little over a year ago, and the war was, we had just had the election, and the war was really, you know, a burning issue, and the president had just changed the Secretary of Defense, and he was talking about the surge. Well, as we walked out, there were about 20, 30 of these senators waiting to go in to talk to him about this issue, and I was patting them on the back and then shaking hands and, you know, really happy to see him. They said, "Oh, yeah, now you like us." And I said, "Yeah, I didn't like you last year when you were killing all of our bills, but I love you this year." and fortunately, they did a pretty good job of defense last year on some of the bills that I know you and I would both have some problems with if they had become law. But it's interesting, you serving 14 years in the Senate in New York. What was that? How did that change? What was the difference serving in the? I never served in the state legislature. How did you find serving in the state versus what it's like here in Washington?
Well, actually, I served 18 years in the state Senate.
18 years.
18 years. And
Yeah,
actually
I
6
tried
years. No,
cut
6.
that.
Yeah. Well, I understand.
Don't get that out of your.
My opponent tried to do the same thing on several occasions. No, and served in 6 years in what's called the State Assembly before that.
Wow.
So when I was in the State Assembly, I was elected on the same ballot with Alphonse D'Amano from New York, a very influential senator eventually down here, and also Ronald Reagan.
Wow.
One of your citizens from California.
Right.
And served for 6 years and was in the minority. It was overwhelming. Registration is overwhelming Democratic in New York, and so the House, which has 150 members, was predominantly Democrat. And so I got, in 1986, I had the chance to take the switch over to the Senate because the state senator who represented my area, in which my assembly district was contained, retired, and it left an open seat. So I ran for the Senate primarily. Some people would say, well, you're nuts. The job pays for the same amount of money, and you triple the size of the district of your district, which it did. But for me, it was more important moving from the minority into the majority, because immediately I became a Senate committee chairman. And there, along with education, and you mentioned in your introduction that there are more colleges per capita in my congressional district, the 29th in New York, than there are in any other congressional district in the country. That's true. Education is a very important component of what the district's all about. But so is agriculture. I mean, we have a wine-growing region, grapes, and a big dairy industry. And so my first job was as chairman of the Senate Agriculture Committee, which I held for 12 years, then moved to education. And then moved to transportation after 4 years in education. Now, notably, there are a lot of similarities because, like California state legislature, New York is what most people would term a professional legislature. You're there and really working probably a minimum 6 months out of the year. And most of the members have another outside occupation, but not something that takes a daily kind of attention, so that that's really your concentration, your focus of really what your occupation is. A lot of similarities between there and here. One of the amazing differences is the time that we spend here with just pure parliamentary procedure. I mean, like the votes that we'll have today, probably 60% of them are based on process to get to the finality. That's not true in New York. As a committee chairman, like you were just a couple of years ago, or wanted to be, you didn't quite make it. The majority switched. But what happens is there, the committee chairman really sets the agenda. I never had the majority leader in the House tell me what to do with education. If I saw that there was a violence problem, for instance, in one of the public schools that we needed to deal with, and we could deal with by, say, increasing the penalties on assaults on teachers, in fact, we could move that bill. I just drafted the bill and would move it right to the floor, pass it if I wanted to. One of the bills that people often ask me, as I'm sure they do you, what's your favorite thing that you've done? What's your biggest accomplishment? One of the issues that I had confront me was the death of a young student on a lacrosse field after doing what's normally taught to him, and that is to block, he was a goalie, block a shot on goal with his chest protector, hit him in the wrong spot, the wrong time. He fielded the ball, blocked the shot, picked it up, took 2 steps, dropped to the floor, died. Wow. It sent us into cardiac arrest, just to happen to hit the right spot. So what we did is we mandated all the school districts, as a result of that, have an automatic external defibrillator, what's commonly referred to as an AED, on the premises when there's an athletic contest and in each school building. We're resisted by, as you might expect, the school boards associations because of this unfunded mandate, and we get the same kind of thing down here. But just last week, or a week before, just before we broke for this President's Week, I had the 25th student whose life had been saved come here to say thank you. As part of a resolution that we were doing to try to create an educational week in June to promote CPR training and also AED training. And I would tell you, there's now been 38 kids as a result of that. So we can look back in success, but that's where my experience was.